whether you're the CEO of a major Fortune 100 company or you're a guy in prison, we all want to know that our life matters, that it has meaning and purpose. And we want to feel seen and heard and loved and like we belong. And these are just these very human, core human needs that we have in order to thrive. And when we get to embrace how much and why we matter, it affects every part of our life, our personal life, our professional life, the way we are in our communities. And so that is the mission that I'm on.
Welcome to Engage Presents. I'm Engage co-founder and president Jake Olson. In this interview series, I ask Engage talent the most common questions we hear from event planners to help you get to know them and their stories in 15 minutes or less. Thanks for listening. Welcome to another episode of Engage Presents. I am Engage President Jake Olson. Today joining me is Matt Emerzian. He is a four-time bestseller, best-selling author, which Matt I think is incredible. I'm trying to write a book right now too, man, and I can't even imagine being a four-time best-selling author. You are the founder of your nonprofit, Every Monday Matters, and of course, you are a motivational speaker. So welcome to, Engage Presents, Matt. But more importantly, I was going to put in your bio there, everyone needs to know you're a UCLA grad. That's where you did most of all of your schooling. You're probably a UCLA fan because of that. So there's already tension between us. And I don't know how anyone lets you on Engage. That definitely got I'm blind, but it got past me somehow, So Matt, tell us one, how big of a UCLA fan are you? And two, how the heck did you ever get on my platform?
Well, that's hysterical. Yeah, I UCLA undergrad and grad school. Also, I played water polo for UCLA, so I was also an athlete there. And I know you were an athlete too at USC. So respect, my friend. I guess a little healthy rivalry is always good. And I was introduced to you by one of your team members, Declan, who I think it was 6 years ago. He was part of a high school leadership program, and they brought me in as a keynote speaker. And he remembered it 6 years later and reached out and says, "We want you a part of our platform." And it's wild because when stuff like that happens, and I don't know if I really properly communicated to Declan about this. So that kind of stuff means the world, at least to me, to know that something I said or a space I created, experience I created for someone stuck with them, for that long, right? And a lot of times they say, "Oh God, once the speaker's gone, a week later they forget everything you say." But Declan has proved to me that my message is important and it does have impact, and so I feel very special to be here because of that exact story.
That's awesome. Well, we are glad you're here. But besides all the joking, we were very glad to have you on the platform. We really appreciate it.
So you at the bottom of the list, though, okay?
just when it comes to college football fans / any type of football category, we'll put you on the bottom. But no, we love having you. So talk to us though a little bit about what you speak about in your story. I mean, it's incredible. You were in the music industry, at the top of the industry, and kind of share us what happened from that point on.
Yeah, well, I think you can appreciate this. I mean, I was coming out of business school. I started working in the music industry, started in artist management, working with talent, as you can relate to. And then I was introduced to Robert Kardashian, the Kardashian family. They had a very successful music marketing company, and they hired me as their senior vice president of their company. So next, I'm working on projects for the biggest bands in the world. The U2s, Coldplays, you name it, and living in LA, as you know, and the Hollywood thing, and it can get the best of you. And I achieved great success, but woke up on a Monday morning and had a massive emotional breakdown, anxiety, panic attack, turned into chronic anxiety disorder and depression. And I realized that I think this life that I had built, this dream life, if you will, that I thought really mattered, that actually none of it really mattered at all. And I had to refine purpose in my life. I had to refine my significance and meaning and why I mattered and what really did matter. So I went down this personal journey of exploration and rebuilding and working with an amazing therapist and coach who I call my expensive friend. Uh, and well, I think everyone needs an expensive friend. And by the end of that journey, I thought, you know what, maybe I'm not the only person that was struggling the way I was struggling. And so I decided to write a book called Every Monday Matters in 2007. And fast forward to today, 17 years later, that book became the catalyst for a nonprofit organization that I started. And our mission is to create a world where everyone knows how much and why they matter. Our three main kind of verticals are education. So we serve over 3 million students in education with a free curriculum. We work inside of companies. So I do keynoting. I do leadership experiences, give back experiences, team building experiences. We do annual engagement and culture programs inside of companies to really help them move the needle. And our newest program is in senior living communities because we have a senior population that doesn't feel like they matter anymore. And I don't feel like anyone should end their life that way. So,
Yeah.
And then I've written 3 more books. So it's I run this organization, I write books, and I do a lot of keynote speaking. That's my life. And it was all inspired by my own struggle.
Yeah.
And my own looking for answers. And on this journey, I just realized that, like, as much as we want to talk about our differences, especially lately, we share a lot in common. And I think that one thing I've seen, whether you're the CEO of a major Fortune 100 company or you're a guy in prison, we all want to know that life matters, that it has meaning and purpose. And we want to feel seen and heard and loved and like we belong. And these are just these very core human needs that we have in order to thrive. And when we get to embrace how much and why we matter, it affects every part of our life, our personal life, our professional life, the way we are in our communities. And so that is the mission that I'm on.
That's really cool. So in that, just I know there's probably a long list of things, but what kind of things did you come with, once you kind of went on this new journey? What were the things that came to you quickly about, hey, this is actually what I care about. This is what really matters in life.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. In the beginning of the process, like it was a lot of internal work, just who am I, why am I, what are my values, what do I care about? And there was a lot of good and bad and ugly in that exploration. Kind of the second phase of it was looking at my relationships and the people around me, and what was life giving, what was life taking. A nickname for anxiety disorder is the nice person's disease. So you say yes to everyone except for yourself, and you have no boundaries. So a lot of that kind of work. And then the final stage of my recovery is my coach. She gave it a motto: as athletes, you can appreciate things like this. And she says, Matt, I want you to know you're never going to feel better until you know what it is to live a life that's not about you. And so how do I go out and live a life that's not about me? Was that final piece to the puzzle of how can I go out in the world, be of service to the world, and in doing so, actually find my true self in all of that. And that's really the pieces of all of it. But what I found, and I share this story in my keynotes, I talk about I was speaking to some convicted felons, and they were like in full prison jumpsuits, ankle chains, waist chains, handcuffs. And they were doing my first book, as part of a restorative justice program. And I told them how much and why they mattered, like for a while, which was kind of an interesting audience to have as the keynote speaker. And afterwards, I asked the judge if I could give them all You Matter wristbands. And she said that I could. So you can imagine putting a You Matter wristband on sets of handcuffed wrists and, how that felt. And at the end of it, one of the guys stood up and he said, listen, man, no one's ever told me that I mattered before. And that's why I ended up where I am today. And he just started sobbing. And I realized from him that, like, there's actually a deeper side to all this too. It's like, yes, go be of service, go volunteer, go pick up trash, be nice to people, give a compliment, plant a tree, do all this kind of stuff. But there's also this internal work, this hole in our hearts, or this itch we can't scratch of, like, who am I? What is this life all about? And so it's a healthy balance of, I think, this understanding self, understanding the power of connection, and also understanding this idea of contribution. And it's those kind of main pillars of what we call the mattering mindset, which is understanding I matter, you matter, and we matter. Like, that really became, like, in some ways I call it like the Frankenstein that I created that actually now leads my life as well.
That's awesome. That's really powerful, really, really powerful. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Before the next question, I do want a quick intermediate question. Is Bono cool?
Oh man, Bono is so cool. That band. You know what's amazing about that, Jake, is that I've got to work with a lot of big artists, and some of them it was not a pleasure. I'll just
Yeah.
straight up. U2, that camp from the new assistant that started 2 weeks ago all the way up to Bono is as classy as I've ever witnessed. It gives me a chicken skin just as I talk about it.
That's so
It's
cool.
it's a whole nother level.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. All right, back to Matt. So you
No
kind of
problem.
mentioned it. You do obviously your keynote, you do workshops, experiences, activations, and you kind of talked about in the different
Yeah,
groups and settings. But just kind of expand on that just a little bit for those, looking to see what Matt can come in and do.
sure. Yeah. I mean, in the speaking categories, if you will, it's people looking for a culture speaker, motivational, inspirational for sure, right?
Yep.
Um, and engagement, employee engagement speaker, even mental health and wellness speaker. It's interesting, I've seen this trend lately in the speaking industry where everyone's talking about profitable growth as well, and like a lot of growth. The speakers I know are like adding profitable growth down to their descriptions and stuff like that. But for me, like you can't have corporate profitable growth if you don't have internal, personal, and professional growth. Like you can't. The profitable growth is an outcome of the work that I do, and so we help people understand how much they matter to themselves, to their teams, to their leaders, to their customers, to their communities. And once they embrace this, and we inspire and empower them to embrace that, the results they change, right? And um, but it happens with that internal process. Like it's almost like we change companies from the inside out, if you will. And I've done everything from SKOs to all hands. I'm typically like the opening speaker or the closing speaker. And I asked this question because it just really works for me as a speaker, is like if one is like heavy slides, lots of bullet points, framework, strategy, a lot of head stuff, and 10 is like super inspirational, super moving, transformational. Like what number are you looking for on that scale? And honestly, I think I get like nines more than anything. Especially lately, I just feel like people they want to feel good again. They're burned out, they're tired, they're confused, they're disconnected, they're lonely. All of those things, and that's when people bring me in.
That's really cool. And, I can just tell not only from you being on our platform and hearing obviously what, people have to say after you come and speak, but just, talking to you for the 10 minutes here, just what you do matters. And we appreciate you sharing that. We appreciate what you do. And so, thank you for joining us on today's episode of Engage Presents. I hope that you've learned how much you matter by listening to this. And if you want to, go to letsengage.com. You can absolutely learn more about Matt and what he has to offer. So we thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today. And stay tuned for another episode of Engage Presents.
Thank you.